and professionals from all over the globe are joining forces with me to support your family during the current challenges that you're facing so that you still thrive, that you still can have harmony and peace and happiness within the home. And this morning I've got Michelle Masters. Morning, Michelle.
Morning.
And I am absolutely so thrilled to have Michelle here. I was lucky enough to hear Michelle speak a couple of months ago now, probably. And Michelle, you are just so full of wisdom and knowledge. And I just knew that when I set this up, I had to have you on board for the families watching. So I really appreciate you being here.
I'm so happy to be with you. Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you. So whereabouts are you joining us from this morning?
Northern California.
Yeah. Okay. Beautiful. And what time is it there?
It's just after 4 in the afternoon.
Okay.
And, in the house, as requested by law.
Yes. And how are you going with being in the home all this time at the moment?
Frankly, for me, it's not that different from how I live anyway, except when I'm traveling to teach.
Sure.
My partner, however, who has a whole lot of energy, on the fourth day, turned to me and says, "So this is our life now? We just live in our house?"
I know, it's so bizarre to even try and understand it, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, there's just so much fear. It's been so much more contagious than the virus.
I completely agree with you. So for those people that don't know you, I would love for you to introduce yourself and share what you get to do in this world.
Right. Yeah, this is probably the thing I'm least good at, but my name's Michelle Masters. I've been doing this work for 25 years or more. And what this work is working with people to change things that are stuck for them so that they're kind of automatically different. It's almost like helping people to rewire their inner software and clear up the blocks that are in people's way. Most of the blocks that people experience are not conscious. If they were conscious, they would have changed them. So it's all these things we don't even know are there. And most people try to do all this stuff to change the places where they're stuck that actually has no effect. Mm-hmm. So the work that I do with people is to change the things that make a difference so that they can have what they want without having to try to be different, hold themselves accountable, use a ton of willpower. I mean, we've already got a ton of things we're supposed to do. This should be easy.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Perfect. And I would love to know, because you're working with a range of people from all over the world, what trends or what have you been noticing as the challenges people are coming to you with over the last week or two?
Well, frankly, they're not that different in that a lot of people feel a lack of control. So they feel a lack of control over their health and a lack of control over their money and over their future. And this is kind of what I'm doing with people all the time anyway, is helping them to be able to get clear on what they want, put in some changes so they can have it without having to really work at it. So this is up to the wattage, on the fear. Yeah. But for me, interestingly, it has also upped the wattage on the joy for me. I can't explain it. I only get a high fever when I'm going through like a big software update, like an identity update. Sure. And last June we were in Sydney, and I never had the flu. I got a flu, a different kind of flu, but it was an intense one. I had a fever. I was teaching. I even fainted, and for me to faint, I had never fainted, never had the flu, never fainted. And in the 10 months since then, I feel like entirely different on the inside, like this huge update happened. And so I do find it interesting because over the past couple of years, I've noticed this huge quickening of consciousness.
Okay.
Like that culturally consciousness expanding all around the globe at an unprecedented rate. And so I knew something big was coming. Frankly, I didn't picture it like this. But I find it interesting that of the few people who get the virus, because most people don't get it, Of the ones who don't get it, who do get it, most don't even have any symptoms. But one of the most common symptoms is a high fever. And so it's almost like the whole planet's being given a chance to sort of update their software. And some people are going to opt out, right?
Yeah.
If you're old, you've got, but it does, despite what it looks like, I have just been hitting these like random bubbles of joy.
That's so good.
I know.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'd love for people to really understand, the unconscious stuff. So we come, as an adult, we come with just everything through the unconscious, right? We've got these neuro pathways already set in. And I would really like people to understand why at the moment, why the dial has just been turned up on what has already been there. So this is not a surprise on what you're currently struggling with. So can you share, I guess, how all of that is formed at such a young age and why at the moment it's simply just turning up the dial?
Right. And because we hear a lot of talk about stress, but most people, we use that word like we know what it means, but most people don't realize what stress is. Stress is actually a certain part of your brain that thinks it's about to die. So we think of our brain as kind of one brain, but it's not. It's like 3 different brains patched together with very spotty interfacing. And so we tend to think of our brain as the cerebral cortex, the big shiny lobes we're so proud of. We like to brag about it to the rest of the animal kingdom. Yes. The wrinkly parts, it's the one context where the more wrinkles you have, the more credit you get. And it's not fully developed. This is what it does. I'll tell you what it does. This part does abstract thought, meaning, creativity, time. We're the only creatures who do time. This is why you will never see a wallaby with a day planner. Never. So, and consequences. This is what does consequences. This part of our brain, though, the most human parts of us, the parts of us that can rationalize, not fully developed until for women, somewhere between 20 and 25. For men, somewhere between 25 and 30. Or as my friend Carl says, somewhere between 30 and death. Right? It's the last part of the brain to come online. Yeah. And I'd been teaching this for years. And my partner and I went on a Jeep tour in Sedona, the American Southwest. And we were the only ones on the tour. So we had the driver to ourselves. And in his spare time, he would do rescues. And then I will tell you why this is all relevant. Yeah. He would do rescues in his spare time. And he said 90% of the rescues that they do were men 30 and under. He said 90 who were sure their vehicle could cross the canyon. 90% of the snake bites they would treat were men 30 and under. And 95% of those 90% of the snake bites were bites to the hands or face. These were not bites to the feet or ankles, which gives you an idea of what was going on right before the snake had had enough, right?
Yes, of course.
Because it takes a brain that can't compute consequences to think that a selfie with a snake is a good idea. So you've also got your emotions come online somewhere around birth. And then here's the part where stress really comes into play. You've got the oldest part of the brain. Some people call it the reptile brain, fully functional in utero. Yeah. We share it with every creature on the planet. And it's got 2 distinctions. There's fine and there's dead. If you're not dead, you're fine as far as it can tell. It could give a rat's hindquarters about whether or not you are happy. It does not care if you are happy. It only cares that you are alive. So it is continually scanning for threats. Now, this cannot tell the difference between an emotional threat or a physical threat. It cannot tell the difference between an actual threat, a remembered threat, or an imagined threat. Like this part can tell the difference, but this part, no. And this is the part that is in charge of keeping you safe. So I saw something, they were talking about people who are having anxiety, and they were recommending that they limit the amount of news coverage they watched to an hour a day. I thought, people are watching for an hour.
Yeah, right.
Oh my God.
Zero.
Like for me, I scan headlights lines on the computer. That's plenty. Because what happens, part of it is and this is not to say there are bad people in the media, but the media's currency is attention.
Yes.
The media networks, they need attention. And there is nothing that promotes attention like fear. This, even in times not like this, you know, they'll put stories on the news like next to weather, and after that, 25 ways your kitchen appliances could be poisoning you. You know, that's like all the time.
Yeah.
So what happens is when we hear something, they will focus on the things that sound the worst.
Yeah.
This part, the human part of our brain, will imagine, we'll picture those terrible things in our head, right? For us, some part of us kind of knows we're picturing something that's happening to somebody else, or we might be imagining it happening to us. Either way, this thinks it's happening to us right now.
Sure.
And so this goes into fight, flight response. So what it does is shoots adrenaline through the system. It increases the flow of blood and oxygen to the heart, lungs, and the big muscles. It takes your immune system offline, because what's more important, getting away from the predator, right? Or a bacteria? See, it takes your digestion offline. Yeah. Like everything that it regards as non-essential to survival. And this is mostly for running away from big predators. Yeah. Right? Yeah. It will regard, when we look at a story about terrible things happening to people, this will equate we are in danger. Yeah. Yeah. And so for an animal, if they're out getting chased by a lion, the interaction is fairly short. Like either after a few seconds or a minute or two at most, either the animal gets away, shakes a bit and resets, or it doesn't get away and it kind of resets as the predator, right? But either way, it's a fairly short interaction. With humans, when we're watching this, listening to this, imagining this, our system never comes out of the threat. Yeah. And so it's incredibly destructive on the body, because the body is not designed to be in fight, flight, arousal. It's actually called sympathetic arousal. Not nearly as much fun as it sounds like. Yeah. So we're not designed to hang out there. No. Yeah.
So when we've got then, so for me, I'll give you an example. What's been triggered in me in the last couple of weeks is this absolute resistance to being controlled, okay, and losing my freedom. And that's because that's my inner child stuff. I know that from my childhood, it was very much around, I didn't have much control. I didn't feel free. I was oppressing all of my emotions as a child, nearly all of the time. So that's getting triggered in me, right? Absolutely. Right. So can you share about why that's happening? Because that's just turning the dial for me on what's already there, right? And this is what's happening to everybody. So why is that happening and how?
Yeah. Because a lot of people have heard about beliefs, but very few people realize how beliefs are formed and how they stabilize. So, as I said, this isn't fully functional until fairly late in the game. Yeah. But this is up and running in utero. So as soon as there's like a little forming organism in the womb, that little organism starts to experience things. There's no cognition yet. There's no thought about it, but there's experience. Yeah. And so the system will start to associate its existence with the experience. So for instance, if mom, let's say a kid's in the womb, mom or dad or both are stressed. One of them is not doing great. Yeah. The little organism will feel the stress. It will feel that experience. And all it's doing is existing, right? But it will associate the two. Human beings are association-making machines. So I'm here their stress, these things must be related. Okay. And so a whole bunch of beliefs can get formed. Life is dangerous. Life is stressful. I'm stressful. I'm too much, et cetera, et cetera. And so we go along accumulating experience and making associations. If we do not die, our system is designed to automate those associations, just like our learning is automated. Like this is mostly a good thing. If your learning weren't automated, you'd wake up in the morning and you'd have to relearn how to walk, talk, control your bladder. Like nobody would get out of bed.
Yeah.
Right? But it's automated. And so a lot of these learnings are automated. Like, you have to work hard. Money doesn't grow on trees. Life is dangerous. You can't have what you want. You can't do what, you don't get to do what you want. Whatever those experiences are that we experienced in the first 3 to 6 years, because most of your beliefs are in place by age 3 and pretty much all by 6.
Yeah.
And there's almost none of this at play. There's not the kind of cognition that can say, my mother and father seem to be experiencing limitations of their expression of joy and freedom. They seem to have deleted possibilities from their worldview. How sad. Like that circuitry is like 24 years from being formed, at least.
Yeah.
So it's like whatever the child grows up experiencing, this, for one thing, will stabilize because they didn't die. And its main gig is to not die. And then that becomes the template for the world. So if someone grows up in a family where there's a lot of fear, they will have a lot of patterning to respond to fear. When a kid is a 2-year-old has 3 times as many neurons as an adult. And at 3, the brain does a huge pruning. It gets rid of 2/3 of the neurons and it keeps the ones that are most in play. So if someone had a lot of fear patterning, a lot of what gets kept is fear patterning. And so when circumstances come up in the world where there's fear stuff, those folks are going to have a much harder time because they've got all this patterning to be freaked out.
Yeah. Perfect.
Not because they're bad people, but because that's the neurology their system kept. So this is why people are having such widely divergent experiences. Some people are so panicked and scared. Some of us are just annoyed. Right? And others of us are like, okay, what else can we watch? It depends on the person.
Sure.
Yeah.
Perfect. And that explains it beautifully. And I know that I have these conversations with my clients all of the time, just around that basic structure, because I feel as soon as that understanding comes in, then that's when change can be made and choices can be made. So, this is for families, and I work predominantly with families, and, we've got young children in the home at the moment, constantly, right? They're at home.
Right.
So, and this is, depending on their age, this is a really crucial time on how they experience right now. So if parents are stressed, then why is it that children are automatically stressed too and anxious too? Why is it that children pick up on that?
Yeah, children live in their parents' emotional fields. So whether they pay attention to what you say or not, they are completely pipelined into how their parents feel. And these are the people that are supposed to be in charge. So if they're freaked out, like it's right. So for a child, the parents, they are so much bigger. They are so much more competent. They have godlike powers in comparison.
Yeah.
So if their God of the universe and goddess of the universe are freaked out, then holy heck, we must be in big time danger, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. Super easy to understand. And so for people that they really they understand the dial's been turned up on some, fears that they've had, and they've gone into scarcity mode and, that fear mode. So how can we start to alter that? How can we start to change that for ourselves and obviously, of course, for our children too.
Right. It's funny, whenever I do an interview, people always ask me for some like action steps people can take. And usually what I say is, and I don't mean this in a self-serving way, I usually say it's best to work with somebody who knows what they're doing, who can revise patterning for you. But in this particular circumstance, I would say, stop watching the scary stuff, because it will just freak out parts of your brain that are designed to freak out.
Yeah.
And it's really hard for this part of the brain to talk that part off a ledge. I remember hearing a story from a flight attendant. They were in a plane at 30,000 feet, and it became clear to everyone that the plane was in trouble. Like, everyone could tell the plane was having issues.
Sure.
And this guy's kind of creature brain freaked out. Fight, flight. He did a pure flight. He got up, was trying to open the emergency door to get out. Now, even a troubled aircraft at 30,000 feet, so much better than no aircraft, right? But the parts of his brain that could make that computation were taken offline by this. This has seniority. It's the oldest part of the brain. It can literally cut the oxygen up here. So you don't want to give this any more fuel to freak itself out.
Yes.
That would be ideal.
breathing into your belly, not your chest, but like actually making your belly pooch out, in an unattractive manner. Yeah. It does help to encourage a parasympathetic reset. And the other thing that I would suggest is you find some things to watch, some things to listen to that remind you, first off, that you're okay.
Sure.
Right? Secondly, that we signed up to come here, and actually we're here at an amazing time. This is actually kind of birth pangs of a whole new earth, right?
Yeah. Completely.
I get goosebumps just thinking about the wonders that are coming for us, and there's some changes. The earth is rebalancing, so is humanity.
Yeah.
And we're headed into something so magnificent. So anything that you can do to help remind yourself of that gives this an entirely different fuel to run on.
Yeah. Okay. Got it.
And your kids will feel that too.
Yeah. Yeah. Completely. And that's the power of language, right? So when we're changing the language that we're listening to, but also it needs to be our internal dialogue that needs to alter as well. And then that will, as you say, bring peace and calm and give that different information to our brain stem, the survival part of our brain. Yeah. Okay.
The feeling part is the most important thing, because your body responds to feeling and your kids respond to feeling. Yeah. So everything you can do that can help you feel relaxed, playful, like fun, inspired, like these are incredibly useful states to be in.
Okay. Perfect. So that's really what everybody needs to be focusing on right now. And I feel like the easiest way to do that is at the moment, because all children are at home, is really to get into their world. They're more playful than us, They live in that playful world. So how can you really dive deep into their world right now and their imagination and their, fake characters and games? That's just the easiest way to tap into it if you have no idea how to start.
Right.
Yeah. So,
and if somebody is having a really hard time, and I understand a lot of people are having a hard time, my Money Magic book, there's an audiobook version, which has all of the books have change patterns in them, but the audiobook has recordings of them with hemisync music.
Okay.
Like that helps your hemispheres to talk to each other.
Yeah.
It can be an easy way both to start to change things for what you want, but also if you're in one of those kind of fear spirals that are hard to get out of, because it is hard when this thing's activated. Yeah. It gives you an option to let that reset and let some of your beliefs shift so that you don't have to keep getting taken offline.
Sure. Okay, perfect. And I'll make sure that we give that information really clearly at the end.
Yeah.
So, what, in your opinion, what needs to come first, Michelle? Does it need to be we think different thoughts, or we behave differently first to really start to alter that subconscious mind? How does that all operate?
Well, the best way to do it is actually to have somebody kind of revise your software for you.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. And because thinking thoughts is also a behavior. Yeah. So whether you're thinking thoughts or whether you're doing something, most people are trying to change their software with a behavioral override, whether it's thinking a different thought or doing a different thing. It is really hard to change patterns by a behavioral override. Just like, because the things that are automated, they're automated like a reflex. So how hard is it if something flies at your head, it's really hard to behaviorally get yourself to not flinch, right? You can maybe muster up a lot and do it once or twice, but it's a reflex. So the best long-term option is actually to get that revised so that you don't have to try. You don't have to remember. You will automatically be thinking different thoughts. You will automatically be doing different behaviors, because it's like software. When you to change software, you cannot like shame your computer into updating itself, right? I have tried holding it accountable. And still it runs its software.
Yes.
I have tried using the power of my will.
Yes.
And it doesn't touch it. But once you properly rewrite software, the software runs differently. Like, you don't have to encourage it. Go, little software. You don't have to do affirmations. You are powerful software, right? It just runs differently. So it's so much easier.
Yeah.
If you can get those patterns revised.
Yeah. And I feel like, I don't know about you, but when I've had clients come to me, that old way of thinking and behaving, after 15 years of struggling with that, when you have somebody that's able to guide you and figure out where that's stemming from and rewire it, it can take a matter of half an hour to an hour. And that's the power of having that support and having somebody to guide you through that process. Yeah.
Yeah. I did therapy with a saint. The woman was a saint. I mean, God bless her. I did therapy once a week for 4 years, and I got a lot of self-understanding and self-awareness, but nothing changed. So when I went to a workshop where they were teaching these tools, and in the first 30 minutes, I could feel things shifting. I'm like, okay, this is different.
Okay,
right? It actually feels different.
Yeah, got it. Yeah. So, Michelle, based on where everybody's at the moment, and parent-child relationships are really quite crucial in terms of the brain development and how we see the world and how we are in the future in adulthood. I guess what would be, the key things that for you would be great for parents to understand? This is crucial to understand now, but this is crucial to understand even before this happened and moving forward after this happens. What is it that you see are the biggest, mistakes and that you between parent-child relationships?
Well, everybody does the best they can. Absolutely. There is no doubt of that. And we are patterned to respond primarily out of the way we were raised. Like, it's really hard to not. That's called imprinting. That's a biological process.
Yeah.
So, and the other thing is, I feel like in this age, so much pressure is put on parents. Like, they are humans, like they're people, right? They didn't come here to just be parents. And yet, so much pressure is put on them to do everything right. What I will say is, everything you can do that helps you feel more at peace, that helps you get to feel the beauty and the worth that you are, everything that lets you feel how completely loved and precious you are, naturally translates into more of that for your kids. I know lots of people who, they're doing their best to affirm things for their kids, But on the inside, these people still feel so hurt and small. And so their kids are getting the words on one level and the hurt, small feelings on the other. And again, this is not to blame parents. This is to say the best possible thing you can do is make it so that you can feel good in life. Because every child's dearest wish is for their parents to be happy, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
And it provides them with so much security, so much happiness. And so, you know, it's sad so many people will sacrifice so much for their kids.
Yeah.
And it's like their life ceases to be important. And what a shame, what a loss.
Yeah, absolutely. This is one thing that I speak to with my clients quite often. I heard once, you can't pass on to your children that which you do not already possess.
Exactly.
And I think that just makes it so clear. And it really takes the need for self-care and self-work to a whole new level when we understand that it's just not, it's not a flippant remark how people say, oh, you really should take time for yourself. It's bigger than that. You know, there's such a biological, neurological, the future of your child depends on this wholly and completely. And I think with everything that you've shared this morning, I mean, it just gives even more, if people want the facts and people want the science behind why it's important, then this is why. And that guilt and shame that pops up because you're taking time out for yourself. I mean, that's not there to serve you because there's this higher purpose for that self-care long term.
Yeah, and just because you're a parent doesn't mean that what you want stops mattering, right? It's like there's room for everybody. There's room for everybody to be happy.
Yeah, perfect. And so while we start to wrap up, Michelle, is there any final message or anything that you feel like we haven't touched on that parents need to know at the moment in your eyes?
I hesitate to say this. I don't want people to panic. Most people's sense of worth is in place by age 3. And most people have a very small sense of their own worth. Anything you can do that can reconnect you with truly the inestimable worth that you are. I can't think of a better word than the worth, the beauty, the love that you are is such a blessing that not only for you, but for everyone you come in contact with, especially your kids. But each of you is precious beyond belief, especially precious beyond your own ability to believe. But I wish that for you more and more. And if this time to step back offers you some time to get in contact with that, what a blessing it will have been.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you. That's a wonderful message to finish on and so innately aligned with how I feel and think too. So I like to finish off with 2 questions, Michelle. So the first question is for you, what have been the opportunities that you've experienced in the last couple of weeks that have been just so beautiful and a blessing that might never have happened if COVID-19 never came up for us?
Yeah. Well, 2, I had to cancel some classes, and 2 others I had to shift online. One was a class for teachers, and one was my money magic workshop. And I was crabby about it at first, and then I hit this place of utter joy around it, and the experience of it was precious beyond belief. And the people, nobody wanted to sign off. Like there was this beautiful connection that this allowed, that you think it's so impersonal.
Sure.
And it was this, and we had people that would never have been able to come to an in-person workshop that could it like opened up. There is this world of really personal, intimate connection that is available in ways we could not have imagined. It's not that it's going to take the place of being with people, but the world just got so much more connected when we had that experience as a group of, oh my gosh, we're all in 50 different places. There was 50 of us.
Sure.
And we had created this space together. And if we can do that, on a Zoom call, my God, what are we what's possible for, us as a species? We are so underutilized what we're capable of. So I was on a high. I'm still a little bit on a high from that, just that experience of what got created together.
Yeah.
So that was one. And then the other is, as I said, just these, I keep getting hit with these kind of random bubbles of joy. There is such, I think, really such beauty that's coming despite what it looks like right now. And I'm so excited to see what we create out of this.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing. And the final question is, what does a happy home look and feel like to you?
Right. We have 4 cats and a dog. My partner's children are all grown.
Yeah.
But when my partner leaves, it used to be she could leave the house, right? When she would leave at the house in the morning, she started off giving the dog treats, and then now all the pets line up for their treats. Like, and the dog didn't get a treat till she sat. So the cats all sit. So everybody's there in a line waiting for their treat. Right? Yeah. It's those moments like that when we have, or everybody's snoring. You can hear the dog snoring. You can hear the cat snoring. There's a fire in the fireplace. We're actually getting home cooked meals now because we're home.
Yeah.
So for us, it has been this sweet kind of all of us together and with time to be together.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. And I feel like even with that snoring, it just allows you to still feel connected to beings and that beautiful love and connection in your home. That's what I feel from that. That's so beautiful.
Yeah, there they are at peace, sleeping and snoring away.
Right, exactly. Well, for those of you who are watching, if you've got any questions based on what Michelle has shared this morning, make sure you pop them in the comments there, and I will make sure that we both get a chance to answer those. I'll make sure if there's any that Michelle needs to answer for you. But I'm so grateful to have spent more time with you, Michelle, and to have you here with all the families in this summit. And yeah, I look forward to connecting with you more in the future, but I'm just so grateful. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Michelle. And
bye-bye.
Everybody, bye for now. Goodbye, Michelle.
Bye-bye.